has always used his family members. He famously had put Ivanka and Jared. I mean, Jared Kushner, his daughter Ivanka's son, was in charge of almost everything you could think of, from reforming the entire government, peace in the Middle East, solving the opioid crisis. So he's tended to lean on his family members, particularly also Don Jr., his son, Don Jr. and his sons Eric. They are some of his surrogates. Ivanka wasn't at all part of this campaign. She was nowhere to be seen. I don't even remember seeing much of her at the Republican convention. She sort of disappeared after January 6th because she was so upset about that and testified to something to that effect. Um, but Trump likes to surround himself by those that are really loyal to him. And we seeing that with his recent pick of White House Chief of Staff, Susie Wiles, who was his campaign manager, who was loyal to him for an extended period of time, which was important for him, and so that's why he chose her as his chief of staff. So the whole thing of relying on family is this idea that he wants to be surrounded by only those that are undyingly loyal towards him. Well, it remains to be seen if his sons or daughters will get into politics and actually run for an official position. I don't know if they will. I think they prefer to just back him and serve a role as a campaign surrogate. We see that Ivanka has completely left. And actually, Trump said that none of his children will have a direct role in the administration, that it was too stressful, particularly for them, given the whole investigation into collusion with the Russian government for undermining the 2016 election, the integrity of the 2016 election. So there was a intensive investigation of Trump and Trump's sons, and so they may feel that getting into politics isn't worth it for them. The other thing it's important to note, I don't think that Trump's sons are particularly popular. They're not very likable. They're reviled and made fun of. They're not adored. Trump has much more charisma and popularity than any of his children do. The Republican convention happened not that long after his assassination attempt, the first assassination attempt, and they definitely wanted to portray him in a different way, where they started talking about him as a grandfather and a family man, and you had speeches like you mentioned from his grandchildren and his children, and so that was a bit of an effort to reshape his image. I think when it comes to his use of family members, I mean, usually that's not really part of what his image is about. It's not really about him being a family man. It's he kind of leans into this macho image, that he's a womanizer, and he doesn't flinch when he's accused of different things. He could say that he's denying any kind of sexual assault or all the different accusations that came forth towards him, and of course the civil suit where he was found guilty of sexual assault and rape. He manages all of these different things at the same time. I don't think he spends a lot of time promoting himself as a family man. And we didn't see much of Melania at all on the campaign trail. I mean, she was pretty much absent. She came in towards the end, and at the very, very end, you saw her at Madison Square Garden, that rally in New York City, and then you saw him and her together after he won. He has been leaning even more into this super macho image, definitely trying to capitalize on the assassination attempts that helped create a superhuman image of him in the eyes of his supporters. And we saw that his campaign was really catering to younger single men, uh, non-college educated men, but also even college educated just younger men in general, under the age of 30. That was probably one of the biggest gaps in the voting in the campaign. That younger women, in particular younger college educated women, were voting for Harris, and younger men, in particular non-college educated men, were supporting him, and that's why he was going on these podcasts like the Joe Rogan podcast, where it's a podcast that reaches 20, 30 million people, mostly men. And it was the group that Joe Biden hemorrhaged the most from the Democratic Party, were young men that listened to Joe Rogan. And that was the demographic that Trump's team was able to successfully attract. And they voted, and because there was concerns, well, this is a low propensity voter. They voted it, and so he was doing podcasts talking about wrestling, um, talking about sports or things that he felt like he could connect with this voter. And I think the advice from probably just even his own gut instincts, but also the advice from his campaign is just to keep leaning into that. Traditionally, if you had a candidate that had slept with a porn star, and that was demonstrated in a court of law that he had engaged in all kinds of affairs, sexual assaults, this and that. I mean, if you had a candidate, particularly on the Republican side, which was supposed to be the party of family values, that would have been a deal breaker. I mean, in Biden's case, he's been only married twice because his wife died and his daughter died tragically in a car accident. Harris has only been married once, and she got married later in life, so she couldn't have her own children. But she's always earned the love from her stepchildren and also from her husband's ex-wife, who has publicly supported her. In Trump's case, this is a candidate Republicans normally wouldn't run. I mean, they would run someone more like Ron DeSantis, who's been married, has children, and doesn't have this complicated past of having children from three different mothers. I mean, that would have been a deal breaker in the past, but the Republicans have looked past that, or people who have voted for him who have looked past that. And I don't think they really care about that. They care about what Trump represents and the way he speaks to his supporters. People are definitely fascinated by him. I mean, he attracts, his relationship with the media is interesting because he criticizes the media openly, some of the media openly, but the media also constantly focuses on him. And that is because he is someone that is unpredictable. You don't know what he's going to say or what he's going to do. And he repels and attracts people equally. So people either want to watch because they cannot stand him, they are just so disgusted by him, or they want to watch because they absolutely adore him. So his, relationship with the media is actually a key part of his success because he gets more media attention than really any other candidate.